All right, guys, I think we're live. I'm going to give it just a second because I'm on a new computer with a new setup today. So I'm just going to make sure that we're actually live watching the YouTube app. Give it just a moment. All right, there we go. It's working. Okay, so what's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about currency, the liquidity of the planet, the liquidity of life, how liquidity is not just, an economic liquidity, a money liquidity, but a liquidity of ourselves and a liquidity of life force energy. And I want to kind of do a deep dive into this topic and just chat with you guys about your thoughts about it too. And this inspiration came from a series of events that I've gone through over the past, I'd say particularly the past couple days. And it started by, for the first time in my life, I had to call a credit agency to try to pay a debt that went to collections because of a fault of the system. So I just want to explain this for a second because this kind of is going to play into how the financial systems are shifting and how the energy of what the financial systems actually embody and are here to do are shifting in general. So real quick, welcome to all the new subscribers on the channel. I know I've got a handful of new subscribers who have joined, who saw me on the Mel Carmine show and who saw me on the Nassar Jassar documentary that was going viral. So welcome to all you guys. Glad to have you here. It was really cool to be featured on those channels. And I'm glad to have you in this community. And to the people who have been here and been a part of the tribe, welcome back. Good to see you again. It's been a little bit since I've done a video. I've been going through a lot of shifts and healing, and I'm going to get into some of it today. So regarding credit agencies and this whole sticky, shifty energy, I've really, for the most part, tried to stay as much out of that as possible. I've never held a credit card. I've literally never had a credit card in my life. I was never taught or brought up to have one, so I just never did. I've never had debt. I've never taken out a loan. I've never had a official car payment. I've always done things my own way, off the books, by myself. And so for the first time in my life, I had to go and call a credit agency because my bank locked me out of my bank due to a system error where they were updating and then my login just wasn't working for like a week. And during that week time, because I don't really use the bank, as you guys know, I pretty much have 99% of my funds in the new financial system, in XRP, a little bit in PayPal, but really nothing in the bank at all. So my bank, it pulled out an automatic payment for what I do have in there. It went into the negative, and then it started taking fees like every day, just bam, 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 fee after fee. And I couldn't log in to see that I was getting these fees because I was locked out of my account because of their own system glitch. And when I found out that I was incurring fees, I called the bank. I was like, hey, I'm locked out. Can we figure this out? They ended up shutting down my account, sending my thing to collections. But before they sent it to collections, they were like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you. We'll get your account reinstated, blah, blah, blah. They never got back to me. A couple days later, I reach out to them again. I'm like, hey, you guys were supposed to get back to me. You never got back to me. They're like, oh, well, sorry, your thing's already, it's already been sent to collections. Your account's been shut down, yada, yada. You can pay it now, or you can try to call the collections agency to, settle a debt, maybe get it, a little bit written off or whatever. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll try this out. So I called the collection agency. And immediately, as you guys probably know, if you've dealt with collections agencies and credit bureaus, complete lack of life force in everything they're doing. Like, I would almost venture to say that it's AI, or like cloned people or something that have no souls running these programs. It was ridiculous how devoid of heart energy the person that I spoke to was. And even my bird, you could probably hear my bird, very upset at the situation. He was not happy either. So I end up, being like, hey, this is what happened. What can you do? And they're, basically like, well, we don't know anything on the bank side. We can't do anything about that. But, the best we can do is, take this little bit off of the debt. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's just do it. So I don't have this on my, credit report. Pay the debt. I'm like, hey, can you take this off my credit report? They're like, nope, sorry, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, fuck, like just ridiculous. And coming out of that situation, even though I had paid the debt, which is, what you're supposed to do, and energetically you would think, okay, I'd be aligned. I felt so dirty. I felt like I had just dealt with the mob. I felt like I had just come out of like a black room in a basement dealing with some mobsters who were like, trying to F me over. And I had to go and like sage myself afterward. I literally had to go outside and like do a crazy saging for like 10 minutes. And even then I was like, I still felt dirty, but I was able to kind of go into a meditation and prayer, make it right with God. And that's when I kind of started meditating more on, these are the financial systems that we're shifting out of. These are the financial systems that we are actively trying to move away from. The banking cartels, the credit bureaus, these various groups which literally are mobs. They're not out there for your best interest. These are not financial systems to empower the individual and help make them, more prosperous. Obviously, right? Like, I know you guys know that, but I had to share that story as kind of a prelude to what I am about to go into regarding liquidity and proper movement of life force. So last night I was at I'm going to be periodically checking the chat on my phone because I don't have it on my computer. So if you see me look over here, that's what I'm doing. What's up, Lucid Heart? What's up, Joel? What's up, Voxer? Prinsky? Good to see you guys. So last night I was in Sedona at a conference called the Sedona Starseed Summit. And this is being run by some friends of ours. If you were at our Family of Light gathering last year, Alexander Mazzone, if you guys know Alexander and Rion from Sedona, this is Alexander's event. So it's his first event. It was really awesome. I was actually really impressed by the speakers that were there, and particularly one speaker. She goes by Water Priestess, and her name is Jilly. And I actually knew of this person because I'm online friends with her partner, Chris O'Brien, who has a brand called Come Out Better. And he is super into not just conscious business, but XRP and crypto investing, but particularly XRP. So from the whole community that I've met with XRP, I connected with Chris and then found Jilly Water Priestess through him because they're partners. So I knew about her. And when I saw that she was going to be at this event, I was like, okay, I definitely have to catch her talk. So I did, and my goodness, it was mind-blowing. It was honestly so much better than I could have even imagined. And her talk was, I believe it was called Hydrated Leadership or Liquid Leadership. I think it was Hydrated Leadership. But she really went into liquidity from a body health planetary standpoint and touched a little bit on how this applies to economic and financial liquidity. And so I wanted to basically bring up some of the themes that she talked about in that talk last night and apply it to what I've been talking about here on this channel and in my Conscious Crypto coaching group, which reminds me, this show is brought to you by my coaching program, Conscious Crypto. So if you are looking to get into cryptocurrency, particularly XRP, if you're one of the many people who has felt called to investing in XRP, it is by far the cryptocurrency that I've seen people being divinely guided to, including myself. I was super not into Bitcoin. Like, I didn't feel good about Bitcoin. I didn't feel good about Ethereum. Those are what kept me away from investing in cryptos from the beginning. Somebody told me about XRP a couple years ago when it was at 17 cents. That synchronicity set off a light bulb in my head that led me on a whole rabbit hole of synchronicities for Ripple and XRP. Then I'd be going to the store, I'd be seeing Ripple milk everywhere. I'd be seeing the Ripple and XRP logos and everything. I'd be seeing the 589 number, which is the 1111 of the XRP realm. And it just sent me down this whole journey of diving into this world. And so if you are feeling called to it, like a lot of other people have, like a lot of the people that have come to me to join the program, you can go to my website, consciouscrypto.info. You can book a free strategy call with me where we can talk about what you're looking to do, what your goals are. I will say my kind of ideal client that I've been working with is somebody who has funds in either like a retirement account or a bank account that they're looking to move out and into this kind of investment. So like I said, I pretty much hold nothing in the bank, and I'm pretty much working with people who are similar minded and want to do that kind of thing. People who want to start moving their money from the bank and from their, 401ks, Roth IRAs, whatever, into XRP and other cryptocurrencies. So if that calls to you and you feel that's aligned with what you're looking to do and moving into this new financial system, you could check out that link in my bio. I've also got a totally free training you guys can check out that is also in the bio, join.consciouscrypto.info. And this is going to go over a lot of the basics of what you'll need to know as we go further into the program and the education curriculum. So XRP, the new financial system, outlining the whole thing, private wallets, how to go about, using private wallets, why they're actually a more sovereign way to store your wealth than a bank, PayPal, Cash App, all that kind of stuff. And then how you can generate passive income in this new financial system, which a lot of people will call the quantum financial system. So moving back to liquidity in water, and I'm actually going to take a swig of cacao real quick because that came up last night too. There was somebody who was serving cacao at the event, and the water priestess was talking about how water, of course, is the life force of everything pretty much on the planet. We're 90% plus water. The earth is 70% plus water. It moves through everything. It moves through our hearts, our whole being. And then somebody came up and was serving cacao afterwards, and he was like, water is the life force energy. Cacao is the energizer of that energy. So we all had some cacao after that, and it really opens up your heart. If you've never had cacao, it's incredible. It's it's something that will really, especially in a public setting, if you're around other people and your heart is kind of closed and you want to be able to connect to other people, engaging in a cacao ceremony really opens up the heart chakra and allows you to get into that emotional body more. So I drink cacao kind of pretty regularly when I am not drinking coffee. If I'm going on a break from coffee, I will replace it with cacao, sometimes a mushroom coffee, but I really like the cacao because of the heart energy. So cheers to that. And I drink mine with some grass-fed butter and some raw local honey. So that's kind of my go-to, creamer and sweetener. And yeah, it's great. It tastes so good. If you've never had cacao, you can buy cacao at stuff like Whole Foods, but it's not going to be nearly the quality that you would get. What you want to look for is ceremonial cacao. So if you can find ceremonial grade cacao, if you've got a natural grocers by you, they usually carry ceremonial grade cacao. If not, work with what you've got in your area, but you could probably find some online. Also reach out to me. I might be able to help you, get you a link to some cacao you can get online. So with that, we're going to talk about FTX. Don't worry, Joel. We're going to dive into FTX. Welcome, Ocean Waves. Welcome, Lucid Heart. Dennis. Good to see you guys. Voxor. You said bought a bunch of XRP recently. Oh, it was on FTX though, unfortunately. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, so we will get into... Actually, you know what? Let's start with FTX, because I know a lot of you guys have been wanting to hear my thoughts on that. And that will be a good segue into, the financial systems that are burning down, into the financial systems that we are building as a collective, and that are going to be increasing this magic liquidity of water, of movement, of life force on the planet. So let's go into FTX first. Quick rundown for anybody here that has not already kind of familiarized himself with what FTX and that whole scandal was. The 60-second rundown. The second biggest cryptocurrency exchange on the planet was one called FTX. They had sponsored pretty much every major sports league, at least here in America. They did a big Super Bowl commercial during the Super Bowl last year. They were sponsoring the NBA. They were sponsoring the what is baseball? NBL, Major Baseball League. I don't even know. I don't watch sports. But they were sponsoring like a basically, all the big platforms. Their CEO was a 29-year-old fellow named Sam Bankman-Fried. He goes by SBF. I might just call him SBF for the remainder of this. So he's the CEO. He was touted as being one of the youngest billionaires in the world. He was plastered on the front of every mainstream magazine, news article, website. He was everywhere. He was being touted as the next Steve Jobs, the next Bill Gates, the next Einstein. They really wanted to prop him up to be the most genius kid that ever was. And this came out of nowhere. Like FTX started, I believe, a month after it was either the Biden campaign for presidency started or the Biden presidency. I don't recall, but it was just after one of those two things was announced. Okay, and we're going to get into why that's relevant to politics and everything in general in the world right now and in America. So they were really making this guy to be this crazy thing. They wanted him to be the next Bill Gates. He was being groomed to be the next big financial, Jeff Bezos, trillionaire. Honestly, they probably would have turned him into the first trillionaire on the planet if I had to guess, especially now that we're seeing people like Jeff Bezos are giving all their money away to charity, right? That's something that was in the news recently. Jeff Bezos, such a good guy, he's giving away all his money to charity. I hope that, just as a side note, I hope that that's, kind of a positive thing. But as we know, a lot of these charities are run by very corrupt groups, and the money gets funneled into a lot of very corrupt things. That's how Epstein was making a lot of money. A lot of those very shady groups, money comes from charities. The Red Cross. What happened to all the money from the Red Cross in Haiti, right? Like, it gets funneled, it gets trafficked. So I'm going to pray that this money that Jeff Bezos is donating is actually going for the good of the planet, but based on the past, that is not historically what has happened. But anyway, Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX. Basically, it comes out FTX is insolvent. That means that they had so much debt, they couldn't pay off the debt anymore. The debt was overwhelming. It was over leveraged. So they had investors. They had major investors, from celebrities to big financial firms. Tom Brady was one of the biggest celebrity investors and sponsors and proponents. They had major firms investing in them, and they had over leveraged their assets. So basically they were super high risk in everything they were doing, maximizing every dollar they came and leveraging, basically meaning that they're multiplying the amount of money that they actually have by incurring a lot of debt and hoping that their profits are going to pay off that debt. So that's what was happening. BitBoy Crypto, the biggest YouTuber for cryptocurrency, he had been warning people of FTX for months before this actually happened. He had been saying that you got to get your money out of FTX. FTX is super shady. He was also saying this about Solana. So Solana's had a lot of issues. If you own Solana, I wouldn't recommend it. Their chain has been shut down multiple times, a lot of issues. But anyway, that's another topic. He was warning about FTX. Everything he said ended up coming true and more. And so basically what happened is the company collapsed overnight. Sam Bankman-Fried basically went into hiding in the Bahamas, which is where FTX was registered out of, and over $1 billion of investor funds, of retail investor funds, were lost pretty much overnight within like a day or two. And now he's no longer a billionaire. He went from being worth like 16 billion to being worth like 900 million overnight. And I'm sure it's far less now. So their native token FTT also collapsed when that whole thing happened. And what we found out was that a lot of their leveraging, a lot of their reserve assets were based on their native token FTT. And so when that token collapsed, the value of everything that they had backing everything up also collapsed. And so this is sparking a huge debate over, not just debate, but just talk in general, because I think most people are on the same side. It's not even really a debate, but I would say more of an awareness that centralized exchanges are, for one, I want to say very sketchy, but they're needed right now because that's where you buy cryptocurrency, but they tend to be very sketchy. And if they have a native token, that's even more sketchy. So basically what we're learning is, if an exchange, which is the centralized company that you're buying and selling your cryptocurrency from, if they have a native token, like crypto.com has a native token, even Binance.com has a native token, FTX have their native token, we're basically learning as a community that is kind of a fraudulent act within itself, because unless that native token really serves some kind of serious utility and purpose, that native token is being used to prop up, most of the time, funds that are not there. It's kind of a smoke screen, and really more of a direct security. So when we compare that to like Ripple, with XRP and the lawsuit, the SEC trying to claim that Ripple was using XRP as a security, FTX and these other groups, they pretty much are using these native tokens as securities, meaning that they are pretty much directly to prop up the company. So like when you buy crypto.com token or Binance token, Binance might be a little different. I've heard it has a little more utility, but I'm not super versed in it. But a lot of them, crypto.com, what's another one? There's a handful out there, but crypto.com being a big one. Coinbase, kind of, they don't really have like a Coinbase token, but they do have their USDC, but that's a little different. But like crypto.com is really the one that really comes to mind. When you're investing in that crypto.com Crow token, you're pretty much investing in crypto.com. You're not buying that token for a separate utility. If crypto.com goes away, your Crow token is going to be worthless. Compare that to Ripple and XRP. Obviously, Ripple is not an exchange, but they are a company. Ripple can totally go away, and XRP would do totally fine, right? Because they own less than 5% of the validators on the network. It is pretty much community, owned and run and operated, the other 95% of the validators. So even in my opinion, I've said in the past, I think Ripple will need to go away in the future for XRP to really become what it's supposed to be. But even with Ripple, it's not an investment. A purchase of XRP is not an investment in the Ripple, and most people understand that, versus crypto.com and the Crow token, or Binance.com and the Binance token. So this is something that this whole FTX scandal has really been kind of bringing awareness to. The other thing with FTX is the massive amount of corruption that was going on behind the scenes politically with what they were doing with the government and with money laundering. So for one, basically what's been coming out since this started, is that FTX was being used as a way to invest funding that was being sent to Ukraine back into the Democratic Party. Even Elon Musk tweeted about this on Twitter. So this is like full-blown mainstream, like, the common person is now learning about this who's not even into crypto. It's exposing what they were doing. And now we're seeing investigations into Biden, right? Including for human trafficking and a bunch of other money-related stuff like wire fraud and all this other stuff. But the human trafficking one is particularly interesting. So money that was being sent to Ukraine was investing in FTX. FTX was then investing that back into the Democratic Party. So it was just this loop of a way so that they could fund themselves. And massive amounts of money, billions and billions of dollars in aid being sent to Ukraine that's, being laundered back. So that's what's been coming out from all this. There's also massive amounts of corruption between the SEC and FTX. So we've been learning that Gary Gensler of the SEC was basically colluding behind the scenes with FTX to give them regulatory passes. Before this even all came out, it was public knowledge within the crypto space that FTX was actively lobbying and trying to create new legislation to destroy decentralized finance in crypto. So decentralized finance is really where the magic is at, where it becomes a community thing versus obviously centralized finance. They wanted it centralized. They wanted FTX to have a monopoly on the market. FTX, Coinbase, Crypto.com, those are kind of the ones in the United States that they wanted to have a big monopoly and centralize it and take away power from the decentralized protocols and investors. And so BitBoy was talking about this a lot. He was like, Sam Bankman-Fried is trying to destroy what crypto is really supposed to be for the people. They're trying to make it this super centralized totalitarian thing that would end up turning into a, social credit system like we have in China. And that's the difference between, this technology, what it can be used for. In the centralized form, it can be used like China to control, manipulate totalitarian state. In the decentralized form, it can be used to liberate and create, freedom and space away from those old systems, because that's clearly the centralized is what we've been already kind of working with for so long, and this would just be a new and improved version of that. So that is a lot. And I'm going to take a drink real quick while I check the comments. Joel, BitTrue does have a native token. That could be something. Wait, no, I don't think. Wait, no, they do. You're right. BitTrue does have a native token. That could be something that could be worrisome. I do like BitTrue, but and not to say these things 100%. Nothing is an absolute. So I'm not saying every exchange with a native token is using it for nefarious purposes. Binance, I want to give more credit to. I hope that there's more to that. They were kind of the good guys in this FTX situation, sort of, where they pulled out a bunch. They basically liquidated all their FTT token before the scandal happened, which kind of raised awareness for investors shortly before the FTX meltdown. That allowed some people to pull out their funds before it melted down. The BTR token may have some utility in the future. I'm not aware of any at the moment, but I would say don't really trust any exchanges. Like, I like BitTrue, I like Uphold, as far as they seem like the least of the evils out there. We need to use them to buy our currencies, right? So you kind of got to go with the lesser of all evils. But I do want to hope that Uphold is more aligned with good intentions. Same with BitTrue, but we don't know for sure. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now, but we'll have to see, how things go moving forward. But in general, I know this, Joel, but like everyone else out there, you don't want to keep your stuff on exchanges. So if you have crypto on a public exchange, any of them, move it off. Just move it off. There's no point, unless you're keeping a small amount on there to be able to spend or trade. There's no point in having it on there. Move the majority of your funds off to a private wallet. This is what I coach people in. This is exactly what I help people do. So if you're someone who's like technically not the best, like you struggle with technology, this is exactly what my course and my coaching program will show you how to do step by step, literally like every step that you need to do to be able to move this. So if you struggle with phones and computers and the tech of it all, you just follow along. I literally have tutorials that show you exactly what to do, and you just follow every step of the way. And then we do weekly coaching calls where we clarify anything. We go over market updates. We go over updates in the space, everything that you need to know. So move your stuff off exchanges or you're going to get burned. What's up, Brooke? Brookie, good to see you. So, yeah, Voxer says there's a small program at my work where people donate a small fraction of their wage to charity. Makes me angry when I heard about it. People look at me funny too when I tell them I don't participate. Yeah, it reminds me of like every time I'm at the grocery store and they're like, oh, do you want to donate $1 to St. Jude's, or do you want to donate $1 to foster children? And I used to do it when I didn't know what those funds are going to. And then I learned that a lot of these foster programs are actually funding human trafficking. And there's a lot of super sketchy shit that's going on in these foster programs. Not all of them, but a lot of the ones that are asking for major donations, that money is not going to great places. St. Jude's is another kind of sketchy one. I don't know, at least to me, from what I've seen. So when I see things like a local food bank, 100% I'll donate to that. I donated to my local food bank the other day because I know it's going somewhere. At least I have a pretty good feeling, like I've seen the local food bank. I've been there before. I know that they're giving people food. I've received from food banks before back when I wasn't doing good financially and we were traveling and stuff. So like giving back to something local, I think is a way better option than giving back to massive, amounts of money being funneled to who knows where. What's up, Matthew? Not sure if I already said hi, Matthew, but good to see you. Feels like they wanted to turn him into a Zuckerberg type. Yeah, totally. And yeah, on that note, like he does kind of have almost a soulless nature to him. Um, there is, if you watch him, like I would say, I would venture to say that he probably does have a soul. Like he doesn't feel full AI like Zuckerberg does, where Zuckerberg just feels like a straight up robot. But that could have been the path they were sending him on, where, soul harvest, whatever, where they end up stripping him of all of whatever he actually has in there. I do feel like that he was like an MK Ultra type victim, and that this wasn't actually Sam's fault, but like he was being used as a pawn in this greater scheme. There were these connections that came out with him at MIT and his parents, who were basically working for the Biden campaign. And one was a professor at MIT, the other one was like somehow more direct with the Biden campaign. He was also the biggest donor to Biden in the last election, or the second biggest donor behind George Soros, actually. And they were aiming to donate $1 billion plus to Biden in the next election. So yeah, definitely being set up as like a Zuckerberg type. And there's some stuff I want to say that I learned privately from some more private details about a friend of a friend who like roomed with him, who dormed with him at MIT. But I was asked to, it's nothing super crazy, just some kind of more insight into like who he was as a person, but I was asked not to share that from the friend of a friend. So, but if you're in the Conscious Crypto Coaching Program, though, because they posted about it in there, but they asked me not to share it publicly. But just some more stuff that kind of shows he was, there were some questionable things about him even before he was big. And, but like I said, I also want to give him the benefit of the doubt in a way. And like, I don't think that Sam was evil himself, is what I'm feeling. Like a lot of the people now are saying he was evil. Like he's just pure evil looking to destroy, everyone's life and everything. I really feel like he was more of a victim. And you can see that in a lot of the interviews and stuff that he did, especially recently, where he'd be like shaking like crazy in the interviews, like just like what to me is kind of signs of trauma abuse and MK Ultra type programming. So yeah, anyways, you guys have any other questions about that? Otherwise we can kind of move into more of the positive global liquidity and everything, life force, how it applies to water and like the planetary movement of energy. So, to kind of segue into that, I feel like this FTX thing is a necessary thing to happen for us to be able to understand the amount of corruption that was still going on in the financial world and in the crypto world. And for the positive energy to truly move to the surface, we need the old, stagnant, hidden energy to burn down. And so that's what I think we're seeing now. I think we'll continue to see it. I think that we'll see more exchanges go insolvent, more corruption come to the surface. I think Ethereum is another situation being propped up to kind of be exposed and burned down like FTX. Ethereum obviously isn't an exchange like FTX, but as far as the corruption going on behind the scenes with the SEC and the free pass that was given to Ethereum, while they go after Ripple for what they gave Ethereum a free pass for, and what Ethereum was actually guilty for in terms of an ICO with private investors that were seeking to, invest before the public release and make a bunch of money, and the centralization of it. That's what they're blaming on Ripple and XRP that they didn't actually do, and that has been shown and demonstrated as this trial has been drawn out for so long. So I think it's really showing even more so the positive of what Ripple and XRP are doing. And, when you see the bad actors aligned with certain groups, and events like this FTX thing bring it to the surface even more, where you can see who the bad actors are aligned with, and then you see those same bad actors and groups go after other groups, it just shows you where the polarities are aligned, right? Who they're aligned with, who they're going after. And those negative groups, those corrupt groups, are going after Ripple and XRP. So it even just shows you even more so that that is what is bringing, liberation and liquidity to the planet. And so let's talk about that with water. So water in general, like I said earlier, it's the life force of everything, right? It is the life force of our bodies. Like, when you feel your heartbeat, this is what Water Priestess was talking about last night. When you feel your heartbeat, picture the water that's moving through your body with that's moving through your veins. When you eat something, feel that water in the stomach juices in your stomach. Feel the water in your reproductive systems. Feel the water in your eyes and your mouth. Like, it's all water. And the more that water flows, typically the healthier we are. When that water gets stagnant, if you get dry mouth, if you're constipated, if your heart is having issues, things don't work as well. And when you apply that to the global scale, springs are kind of the life force in a very similar way like our heartbeat and our veins are to the planet. Like springs where that water is coming up fresh from the earth, that's really the best source of water that you can get. Tap water is not a natural thing to drink. Even if, like where I'm still kind of need to improve is I get spring water, or I'll get Kangen water, if you guys know what that is, from the store, which has a lot of life in it too. But I'll get spring water and I'll keep it in one of those jugs, but it's sitting in that jug for days or a week or whatever until I drink it. And that's where I need to kind of improve in my personal life as far as physical water, because stagnant water is dead water. Water that's moving with energy and life has the charge, the electrons, the voltage, the whatever scientific kind of perspective you want to apply to it. It's got the energy. That's why, water that's healthy is water that's moving through aquifers and moving through springs and the ocean. Water that sits in a pond gets mosquitoes, it gets bacteria, it gets viruses, it goes rancid. So anytime you have stillness of liquidity, you have lack of life. You have death, pretty much. And so how does that apply to the financial systems? Well, it's literally the same thing. They literally refer to it as liquidity, and for good reason. Our financial systems should be a healthy torus field. It should be an energy field that represents our capacity to exchange energy with each other in some kind of physical or non-physical form. So obviously, energy exchange can come down to so many different things. Like it can be expressions of emotion. It can be expressions of words. It could be gifts. It could be physical things like oil, like selling your car, right? Like these are all forms of energy that are moving around. And we typically represent that energy through money. Like that's just how the world works here on this plane of Earth at this moment. So for so long, these energy systems have been kept stagnant. They've been cut off, right? Like the 1%, the 0.01% having the majority of the finances on the planet and keeping them in bank accounts where nobody can touch them is stagnant water, right? Maybe for them, they have a little bit of like, movement as far as moving in between accounts and that kind of energy. But as far as what we're getting access to and the dams that are being put up, this is another thing, like the dam energy. When it comes to water, our planet has kind of been really majorly affected by major dams being put up. For instance, here in Arizona, the Glen Canyon Dam in at Lake Powell has restricted massive amounts of water that were moving through the Grand Canyon in the Colorado River. It's just this tiny little thing now. It used to be this big rushing river, and now they're saying it's almost totally dried up. Which, by the way, reminds me, if you're coming to Starseed Adventures, Sedona Starseed Adventures in Sedona, which I'll be speaking at with a bunch of other people, Matthew, Ivan Teller, Alexis, a bunch of people are going to be there, Abby Lynn, Laura Van Tyne. We're going to be going to the Grand Canyon. And so you'll get to see some of this energy for yourself and kind of, get a gauge of it. But these dams, Hoover Dam, a lot of the dams in the Pacific Northwest especially, are creating a lack of life force. In the Pacific Northwest, it's really affecting the natural flow of the salmon and their migration and the other fish, but particularly the salmon is what the natives will tell you about. It's destroyed those ecosystems. And so while in some cases dams may be, good, like we have beavers that build dams and there's natural dams, it's been overdone and it's been overbuilt and it's creating a lack of physical liquidity on the planet in a water literal sense. So when you apply that to the financial system and we have dams, we have financial dams, right? In order to move money from one country to another, you have to go through the SWIFT transfer system. It takes 3 to 5 days to be able to wire money from one place to another on the planet. That's a dam. That's a lack of liquidity, being able to move that money from one place to another. When you want to say pay somebody and you don't have the same bank, so you can't do a transfer, or they don't have PayPal, you have Cash App, they have PayPal. Oh, what are we going to do? You have to have all these specific systems, and if you don't have the same exact system as someone else, it's really hard to send them money. It shouldn't be that way. It should be as simple as sending somebody an email anywhere and you send the money like that. And that's what Ripple's goal is with XRP. That's what XRP is seeking to do, is create that literal liquidity on the planet. And so when you look at it in that sense, that's their goal. That's the goal of XRP. That's what they say all the time. It's to increase liquidity, increase the movement of this energy around the planet, make it more instant. And the name Ripple, it's literally a water name. There's water codes in that, as Water Priestess would say. She calls them water codes. So Ripple is literally a water code, right? It's rippling the water out. It's moving that energy. What happens when you have a stagnant thing of water and there's a bunch of mosquitoes in it, and you drop some water in it and it creates ripples? Those mosquitoes get up and they fly away, right? It adds a little bit of life force to that water. If you have then constant water dripping, mosquitoes can't build on it, right? If you have a little bit of a waterfall or a trickle, like growing up, I'm thinking of my dad built this big dog water thing, and he had to put a little fountain in it, because if there wasn't a fountain creating ripples and movement, the mosquitoes and the algae and everything would build up. So you need that movement, you need that liquidity. And that's what XRP is doing. It's creating that global liquidity. And it's the only crypto project on their level that's actually doing that. It's the only one that is creating that amount of shift in the financial system. And so, I want to bring up the kind of what people would bring up as the flip side to that. There's a lot of concern from people who are kind of not so familiar with it as much, rightfully so, that, for instance, CBDCs are being tested on the XRP ledger. And CBDCs, as we know, could be a major threat. That's not a good, for the most part, from what we're seeing of them, CBDCs are for if you don't know, central banking digital currency. So these are programmed currencies that the various countries are looking at creating as the new digital dollars. And these are what we need to worry about to a degree with, you know, having money that is totally programmable where they can take it out of your account or whatever. And so there's a few kind of energetic responses that I have to that concern. People bring that up when they're like, well, you know, how can XRP be good if there is CBDCs being tested on it? Well, for one, that's not XRP itself. XRP, you can liken it to being the new internet. They call it the internet of value. So of course on the internet, you have good and bad things, right? The internet is the necessary technology that both the good and the bad will use. And I see XRP as being the same thing. It's the necessary technology that we all need, but of course the bad are going to try to build on it and leverage it for their own gain. So just like on the internet, you can have malicious porn sites, or if you go to the porn site, you know, your computer gets corrupted, you get crazy files, or there's, you know, just negative, you know, internet websites, negative tech companies, right? That doesn't make the internet itself a bad thing, because there's also beautiful things happening on the internet. Like we're able to connect over the internet right now, even if the platform is, you know, questionable. We're still using this platform for good, right? To spread a good message, to spread love and connection and positive energy. So there's really this dance of duality, right? And it kind of goes back to the sense of like, I heard this just recently, like just as in God is within all of us, so is Satan, so to say, right? Like we all, you know, if you want to liken it to the traditional Christian sense of we all have sin in us, or the more kind of new age sense of we have duality within us, the duality is there, right? And until we evolve beyond duality, if that is possible, we're playing this game of duality. So we have to work with that. We have to integrate that. And we can choose how we interact with the duality. But the duality is there regardless. We can't really wish it away. And so in that respect, yes, banks are testing CBDCs on the XRPL. But you know what that says to me? That's an even better reason to own the parent asset, XRP. Because if they are going to deploy CBDCs on the XRP ledger, you don't want to be stuck holding the CBDC that is limited in its freedom when you can hold the parent asset, the XRP itself, that is not bound by that freedom. Because no matter how much restriction they create with these CBDCs, whatever platform they're built on that parent platform. So if you're invested in that parent platform and you own that parent energy, you know, that the XRP or whatever, you know, it would be, you have the sovereignty there, right? So you're not buying in, you're not being forced to use that, you know, distorted program. You're closer to like the source of the energy. And you could liken that to, you know, the densities and the dimensions as well, where, you know, you want to go straight to God's source. You don't want to necessarily connect or pray to beings that are less than God's source. Maybe sometimes, maybe, you know, your higher self or whatever is a step down from source. But for me personally, I go straight to the source. I go straight to the creator. I go straight to God, right? And that's what I kind of liken this to. You don't want to play in the more dense, distorted systems. You want to go straight to God. That's where you want to send your prayer and your intention and your energy. And so in the same respect, I'm going to invest in XRP, one, because it just feels great and aligned to me, and I know it's a great opportunity, and it seems like it's going to be the new, you know, kind of God, more godlike energy. Like I liken, you know, this technology to being more of the God mind consciousness in general than the consciousness of the technology, financial technology that we've been coming from. So that's one perspective, right? It's an even better reason to invest in it because you don't want to get stuck. Like if you don't invest in XRP and they build CBDCs on the XRP ledger or wherever else, and you're stuck holding the dollar, and then they transition they're like, all your cash is worthless, right? Now all your cash is converted into this CBDC digital dollar. Then you're stuck holding that, right? Then you're stuck in the more distorted, dense realm when you could have gone straight to the source of where that is even connecting to, because every demon is still connected to God, right? Every negative entity out there is still one with God. So don't be stuck with the demon. Go with the godly energy, like in general. I hope that makes sense where I'm coming from. Yeah, Brookie brought up maritime law. That is another really applicable like aspect to this, that like the water of it all, right? Like the maritime law, the kind of straw man, like, the accounts and everything that goes with that, them using your liquidity for you when you have these straw man accounts and you're technically dead at sea with the maritime law thing. Like there's a lot of water codes and water references because water is the basis of life, at least on Earth. So, okay, let me reference my notes real quick, see what else. Oh, this is an interesting tidbit. I learned yesterday as well that in Canada, your social security number, they call it a social identity number. It's literally sin. Sin is the social identity number, your social security in Canada. So another example of like, the corruption basically and the darkness of that the old system and everything they're doing. Another one, inflation is inflammation. This really hit me hard. I was like, wow, I can't believe I've never thought about this. Inflation is inflammation. So what happens when things are inflating in a financial aspect? When the currency is inflating, it's growing, it's becoming less valuable, less worth it. Well, it's growing, which is literally what inflammation does, right? Like the inflammation makes you swell. It makes, it's your body trying to fight off the thing that you're going through, whatever dis-ease or infection or whatever you have, and there's a literal swelling of the area, and inflation is the swelling of it. And they might be trying to say, oh, this is what's supposed to, we're trying to fix the economy, blah blah blah, but no, obviously this is not good for people right now, like the crazy amount of inflation and raising interest rates and everything. So that's another good thing about XRP, is that it's a deflationary currency. So every transaction has very small fees, but those fees are burned or deleted permanently. So, to transfer millions of dollars, you're going to be paying pennies on the dollar in fees, like just a couple pennies at the most in fees. But those pennies are burned. And so over time, that is deflating the currency. There can never be more. It's going to be less over time. So that deflating energy is, lessening the inflammation of the planet. Another thing is expenses versus investments. So when you make purchases, you have to ask yourself, is this an expense or is this an investment in myself? And to me, if you're doing it right, everything you purchase should be an investment in yourself. Nothing should be an actual expense, because if it's an expense, then it's depleting you. And I'm not just talking about expense like just purely financial, like paying a bill or going to the grocery store and buying food and it's an expense, blah blah blah. Those are also investments, right? When you go and buy food, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your health. If you buy organic non-GMO food, you're investing in your health. Yeah, it's more money, but that's where you look at that and you go, okay, is this actually an expense? Is that organic non-GMO fruit, or that grass-fed organic steak, or that non-GMO organic rice? Is that actually an expense? Yeah, it's more money, but you're investing in your health. You're investing in yourself. And so that's something you should ask yourself every time that you go to purchase something. Like, is this an investment in myself, or is this a purely expense? Sometimes there are things that maybe are purely expenses where when you ask that, you're like, okay, this nothing about this is actually in allowing me to invest in myself or the planet. But mostly everything should be, if you're doing it right, mostly everything should be an investment in either yourself, your tribe, the planet, to make it a healthier, better place. So I think that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind when you're going about spending, and especially if you're somebody that struggles with spending money. I've noticed, myself, I've struggled with spending money in the past. Like since I was a kid, I've always been a saver, like save, 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 save. When I would go get Halloween candy as a kid, I would literally save it all in a drawer until it went bad. Like I was like that kind of kid. Like I would barely eat any. I just wanted to have as much candy as I could in the drawer, but I would not eat it and then it would go bad. Which in retrospect, I'm glad I didn't eat all that candy. Like that's better for my health. But from the perspective of saving, um, what I've learned more recently in my recent years is you need to allow that to flow. This goes back to the liquidity and the stagnation. If you have money sitting in the bank and it just sits there and you're just putting it there, putting it there, putting it there, it's growing stagnant if you're not actually using it to invest in yourself, to invest in others, to make your life better. If you're not using it to buy better foods, if you're not using it to educate yourself, to buy, I don't know, like say courses and educations and programs to educate yourself so you can get where you want to be, or to buy something that makes you happy, like maybe that nice car, like, you know, maybe like that nice car actually makes you feel better when you go to the grocery store and stuff, that could be an investment in yourself still. So when I started learning this and I started caring less about every little thing that I spent, I noticed I would make more money almost instantly. So I would, for instance, like I'd spend the extra money to buy um, myself or my mom or Alexis or something nice that normally, I wouldn't spend that extra money for. Or I would spend the extra money on an experience or something. And I would notice that almost immediately I would get paid like twice as much. Like the next day I'd make a sale or something and I'd get paid more than I spent. And I was like, okay, after so many times, it's not a fluke, right? You notice these patterns and you notice um, these laws of nature, and it's about this liquidity. It's about this movement. The more that you move, the liquidity and the water in your body, the finances in your bank, in your crypto, wallets. The more that you move your body, right? That's another one. Like if you don't move your body much, it becomes stagnant. Your muscles atrophy. You lose mobility. If you move your body a lot, people who exercise and run. I was talking to a guy yesterday that was like 70 something years old, and he went on like 30-mile runs every 2 weeks or something crazy, and plays racquetball every day, and he looked like super young. So the more movement you have, the healthier systems are in general. Oh, social insurance number. Thank you for correcting that, Limonella. For for the Canadian Social Security, it's not social identification, social insurance number. But still, it's sin, right? It spells sin. So yeah, well, I think that's mostly everything that I wanted to cover in this. Basically, just talking about all that, and then kind of, you know, going back to FTX and everything that's burning down. I really think that this is all necessary so that we can have the systems that are for the light and are for the liquidity and health of the planet rise like the phoenix. So, um, there's a term, pools of liquidity. Mr. Pool, now that I think about it, the pools of liquidity that Mr. Pool talks about, liquidity pools that are in crypto, these are like mainly decentralized like exchanges and places where liquidity is moving in and out for people to access it. And so these pools of liquidity are going to bring this more life force to the planet. And I kind of like Ripple has this thing called on-demand liquidity, which is where they are allowing both retail and financial institutions to access large amounts of liquidity at different locations around the planet. And to me, that's like a spring. It's like the springs of the earth. And springs are such highly sought after commodities, right? Like if if there's a piece of land that has a spring on it, the value is way higher. And in a lot of cases, if you buy land and it has a spring on it, the government won't even let you have that spring as your own because they want it, right? So springs are a very valuable thing to people. It's a valuable energy, and they should be public access, right? They shouldn't be private. For the most part, they shouldn't be things that someone can own and not share with anybody else. And to me, that's very like what these liquidity pools and these on-demand liquidity corridors that Ripple is building with XRP. It's creating springs for people to access money and move money very easily, which is just energy, right? It just goes back to being energy that we're moving so that we can create the things that we want to create. Because money's just the energy, right? It's not the end all be all. It's not the thing that we're actually trying to hoard and focus or whatever. It's just how we express the creativity and the energy of being human and what we want to do here. And I've said this before that, a lot of our freedoms are built off the freedom to use our finances. So if we don't have freedom over our finances, we don't have the ability to express a lot of our other freedoms, like freedom of speech, freedom of travel, freedom to bear arms, like whatever. A lot of those things are not possible if our bank accounts are shut down and we don't have access to money. So that's where they've tried to get people for so long. They've tried to restrict access to that and let it funnel just to the top in the pyramid scheme. And we're flipping that. We're not only flipping the pyramid, but we're turning it into a circle, right? That's kind of how I see it. So that it's like a pool of water. A pool of water with ripples moving throughout it. It's a torus field, constantly moving and in flow. So, yeah. And this picture, I spent a couple hours last night trying to create this picture. I created this with AI, funny enough. So this is something that I've been messing around with recently. AI art generation using text prompts. And one of the cool positive things that I've seen with this kind of technology. So I was spending a while trying to create like a thumbnail and a background based around all these concepts like liquidity. I was trying to do things like, rivers made of money or whatever. But eventually I did like gold, liquid gold, and like ended up coming to a design like this where you have like the gold earth, it's glowing, you have golden water, and I really like the photo, but I think it also fits the theme well. So that's pretty cool. And on another show, some other time or in a video, I'll mess around with this AI with you guys where we can, in the chat, you guys can like, type some stuff that you want to create and we can create some fun photos. There's actually a lot of really cool, like spiritual, metaphysical type art that you can create with this kind of technology. I've been generating like faces of galactic looking beings and like ascension type energy, planetary grid, kind of art. So I've been experimenting with that. I'm excited to share that with you guys sometime soon. We'll jump on and we'll do that. Limonella says many financial institutions are changing over to ISO this weekend. It seems could be good for XRP value in the next coming days. What do you think, Jace? I think it was supposed to happen this November, but I'm pretty sure they postponed the deadline or whatever for at least till spring, if not November of next year. But I've seen so many conflicting things, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But I did see that the ISO coins today, somebody pointed this out in the Cosmic Origins group chat, that the ISO coins are pumping and everything else, or, they're in the green at least. They're not pumping super hard, but they're a couple percent up while everything else is down. So the ISO coins are the ones that are basically for global liquidity and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a good sign. What's up, Aaron? Good to see you, man. Hey, Lala. Good to see you guys. Well, I think that's it, guys. I think I shared everything that I wanted to share. Good hanging out with you all. Join the Cosmic Origins Telegram channel. If you're not in it already, link should be in the description. If you want to join the Conscious Crypto Coaching Program, if you've got like 401k, retirement, just savings in the bank that you want to learn how to begin to transfer into XRP and some of these other liquidity systems, you can book a free call with me, link in the bio, where we'll talk about where you're at, what your goals are, see if I'm a good fit for helping you. If not, I'll try to point you in the right direction for something that's better. I've also got a free training you could check out, which talks about XRP, the flip of the switch, the financial reset, private wallets, and multiple forms of passive income generation within this whole ecosystem that we're dealing with. So link in the bio to check those out. I think I also got my Twitter down there. So like this video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for hanging out. Peace out. Also, I don't have an outro today because I'm on a new computer and I have to move that file over. So I'm going to get that done. Maybe next time I'll have my intro and outro. But for now, this is it. Much love, guys. Take care.